please. Picture this as the planet, in other words, right? And that will continue to grow, and more of the rainbow frequencies will come through, and they'll form a sheath, actually. They'll still have the dark frequencies running, but this will form a sheath underneath them, and I think over them too at certain points, but underneath them first. Next one, please. Eventually, the rainbow frequencies will be swirling all around the planet and begin to spread into those 5 layers as well. From layer 3, they'll go in to layer 2 and 1, and out layer 4 and 5. Next one, please. Yeah. And then it will actually start to create the rainbow bubble around it. The rainbow what do they refer to it as? The rainbow ride vehicle, the rainbow round. First the round, and then it becomes the rainbow ride vehicle. So this is actually forming a frequency bubble around the planet that would be around the diamond-shaped plasma reconnection vehicles that we were looking at the stages of. Next one, please. Eventually, we would have the layers 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'd have here would be the one layer that you don't see because it's not a big enough photo. So you'd have one band here, and these would be the clearing of the shell of contention bands. You'd have the one here cleared, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They'd be cleared, and you have the 5 layers of the ephemeral bubble building, and our fields would begin to reflect this as well. So this is these are close enough. The Guardian said these images are close enough for to give you an idea of what this looks like, and also some of the colors that are involved. That I can't do this with crayons, basically. It would take at least paint, if not Photoshop, to do them. So this is giving you an idea of what, when the rainbow frequencies begin to come in on the planet, how that's going to spread, and these beautiful colors are going to come over and create a buffer between the planet and the dark flows that are coming in, and it will impede and slow down the blossoming of the dark flower lotus frequencies in the planetary vortices and those kind of things, which will also directly affect the epigenetic overlay of the life field on the planet, and it will inhibit and slow down the dark flower frequency receptivity in the biological forms as this rainbow frequency comes in. Next one, please. And eventually, there's Earth in its rainbow ride vehicle. And there will be others as well. This was just an image again from the internet, and we're going to contact the owners of them and say, can we print these? Purchase the right to print them, and hopefully we'll be able to. But it gives you an idea of what the planet is going to go through as a result of these rainbow frequencies coming in from from Sun 8 and from Araya Earth. Next one, please. Here we go. These are just excerpts. I don't know if they're going to give me ever the whole long text on the NOMI, but this is called NOMI Notes Excerpts. Earth Human Lineage and Origins of the NOMI Gene. The NOMI gene is an ancient genetic configuration carried in small percentages through all human race lines. This genetic configuration originated on Earth about 800,000 years ago and was entered into the Angelic Human Seeding 3 gene lines, which is our current contemporary gene line. During Seeding 3, the NOMI ephemeral human gene line was created to carry the Seed 3 Angelic Human compound cloister coding, the coding of all 5 Angelic Human cloister races of Seeding 3 combined. It was also imbued with the Panicolaera Araeapheme D-planes coding, the K+8 factor of the Nomia Ephea Araya Alhambra Ephepheme Eternal Life gene line, the Sun 8 D-planes failsafe coding. The compound genetic coding carried by the seed-3 NOMI ephemeral angelic cloister humans carries the coding of the 5 angelic human cloisters of seed-3, each of which carried a portion of the 7 angelic human root race genetic lines coding. Thus, the earthly genetic base of the NOMI contains all DNA coding pertaining to seeding 3 12 tribes, the 5 cloister races and the 7 root races. Additionally, the NOMI lineage carries the K+8 ephemeral code, the fail-safe crystal bridge code, that's supposed to be code, which allows for regenesis of the transfiguration factor. And what's interesting, because the NOMI gene it carries all of the coding of any of the root races or the cloister races of seeding 3 on the planet. Once a certain level of that activates in the people that do have the NOMI gene in the DNA itself, it will trigger activation of it in at least the epigenetic overlay. Even if the full DNA imprint isn't there, it will be in the epigenetic overlay in the core plasma template. So as the people who do carry, and there's several million, they said they carry the full NOMI gene in the physical DNA, once that activates and begins assembling, it progressively transmits more frequency out into the planet and into the layers of the planet that correspond to the epigenetic overlay of the life field. So the fact that the NOMI gene is here, and now it's beginning to activate, because it activates in relation to the rainbow plasma currents, it's what allows the crystal river host, failsafe host, to be extended to the entire life field on the planet. So let's look a little bit more. What's really fascinating is, where did the NOMI gene come from? And there was a big bit on this, and they just said, just pull this. This is the main lineage. So, Earth Angelic Humans and origins of the NOMI gene. The NOMI gene emerged into external creation in our time matrix 950 billion years ago, with birth of the Aquinas Andromeda M31 galaxy, and first externalization of the Aquaria Nomia ephemeral human races in M31 Andromeda. From this core template, the interstellar ephemeral angelic human genome of Andromeda was derived 300 billion years ago, following split of the M31 galaxy and formation of Procyon Milky Way phantom galaxy 360 to 350 billion years ago. From this core template, the interstellar angelic human genome of Lyra, density 4, was derived about 200 billion years ago in the Lyra star system of Procyon Milky Way galaxy, following fall of Aramatena Lyra 250 billion years ago, and stepped down from Lyra density 4 through the densities, and now we're in the Milky Way, right? The density 3, Mintaka Orion, Polaris, or Gaia, density 2, as the Taurinaceum 1 race, human race, on Alcyone, which was Tara, and the Pleiades, and also Sirius B and Procyon, and to density 1, Earth. From the core from the core template of the 200 billion year old interstellar angelic human genome of Lyra density 4, the density 1 Earth angelic human species, the Taurinaceum 2, was derived 25 million years ago on Earth. Seeding 1 was at 25 million years ago on Earth and parallel Earth. They were wiped out by, I believe it was the electric wars, 5.5 million years ago. Seeding 2 was seeded 3,700,000 years ago on Earth. They were wiped out by the 1,000 Years' War, and I forget exactly when that was, but I have it on the history charts. And then seed 3 was our current one. We were seeded 800,000 years ago, and this is where the NOMI gene was brought full back in, because they realized the place was going into where failsafe would most likely need to be called. And that's why we still have the availability of the NOMI gene in the angelic, in the derivative, which we are the derivatives of the angelic human race. Contemporary Earth and the NOMI gene. Since first seeding 1 of the Earth angelic human, the Taurinaceum 2, 25 million years ago, both seeding 1 and seeding 2 were destroyed. Seeding 1 destroyed 5.5 million years ago in the electric wars on Earth. The Seeding 2, seeded 3,700,000 years ago, was destroyed 848,800 years ago during the 1,000 Years' War on Earth. And these things were described in the Voyagers Volume 2 book, as far as this history part. The final seeding 3, the contemporary lineage, was seeded 800,000 years ago with direct inclusion of the original NOMI ephemeral human core template from 950 billion years ago, Aquinas Andromeda M31. From 669,000 BC through present, Illuminati hybrid human raider races were created on Earth via forced interbreeding campaigns launched against the Earth angelic human lineage by various reverse template stellar races, resulting in the mutations and mortal confinement of contemporary Earth humans. However, the pre-ancient NOMI gene still remains as the core template encryption for the seeding 3 Earth angelic human and its contemporary descendants. Due to the excessive interbreeding of the original Earth angelic human lines, much of the angelic human genetic potentials have been severely diluted and mutated out of the contemporary human genome. Only several million contemporary humans still carry the NOMI gene as dormant but accessible biological potential within the physical DNA. Some components of the junk DNA correspond to this. Though only a small percentage of contemporary humans carry this full physical genetic potential, the NOMI gene encryption still remains as the core encryption of the plasma template for all contemporary descendants of the angelic human lineage. Next one, please. The NOMI gene activates through the plasma template and its exposure to the K+8 rainbow plasm frequencies. Once the NOMI gene activates in the plasma template, it next activates within various layers of the epigenetic overlay, chemical DNA sheath that administrates certain DNA responses. Once activated in the epigenetic overlay, the NOMI gene will speak to the physical DNA of humans still carrying this physical biological genetic potential, and over time will turn on the physical NOMI gene attributes within the DNA, allowing for biological regenesis of the ancient Earth angelic human transfiguration factor potentials. In contemporary humans that no longer carry the physical biological NOMI gene, in other words, if the gene isn't in your manifest DNA, it's not all hopeless. So if in the contemporary humans that no longer carry the physical biological DNA, NOMI gene potential within the physical DNA, activation of the NOMI gene within the epigenetic overlay will create a protective sheath of rainbow plasm electromagnetic frequency that will progressively inhibit the epigenetic overlay from running dark flower currents, and will thus progressively inhibit the spread of the dark flower affliction. The dark flower affliction affects the biological form from activation of the dark flower currents within the epigenetic overlay. The ego, or epigenetic overlay, carrying the dark flower currents speaks to the physical DNA, progressively turning on reverse template junk DNA sequences. When the planetary Templar begins activation of its K+8 rainbow plasm reservoirs, the NOMI gene encryption within the plasma templates of all humans activates and triggers subsequent activation of the NOMI gene potentials within the epigenetic overlay of all humans. This allows the option of Path of Lila safe Bardo passage to Panclara D-planes incarnation to all humans, even if they no longer carry the physical DNA NOMI gene. It also allows for the potentiality of Path of Trua ephemeral transfiguration crystal bridge passage for the several million people still carrying the dormant physical DNA NOMI gene. Earth's planetary Templar began activation of its first K+8 rainbow plasm reservoirs between August 31st and September 1st, 2015. Awakening of the NOMI gene has begun. Next one, please. And these, again, are just images from the internet. We haven't had time to make our own at all with this, because it's all new information for us too. So if this is just an image depicting, conceptually depicting your DNA, okay, next one, please. let's just use this image after that one to conceptualize. Let's say this is your epigenetic overlay. This is not what these pictures are. They're showing DNA, but that I'm just using them to conceptualize. So, okay, this is the sheath, let's say, that's controlling how the DNA fires and how it talks to itself and what turns on and in what way. Next one, please. Now, this one, and this is a funny one from the internet. They look like little pills, and that's not really what it's about. It was just showing how we said that whatever currents are running the DNA, it talks to. If you have in the epigenetic overlay, you have the dark flower currents running. They will talk to the gene sequences that correspond with the dark flower currents in the DNA. But if you have the rainbow frequencies running, they will also communicate with the original angelic human potentials, or the NOMI gene potentials within the DNA, and turn those on. So really, depending on what frequencies a person is most running, will determine what portions of the DNA turn on and whether their templates will reverse or begin to come out of reversal and be able to catch the crystal river host. Next one, please. Let's just use this conceptually as an image of the dark flower sheath of the. It actually looks like black tar, just like the stuff when you pull them out, the stuff we were pulling out of our lotuses. So just imagine that this is the dark flower frequencies of the reversed epigenetic overlay, coding the DNA and controlling it. Next one, please. And now let's just conceptualize and imagine that when the rainbow frequencies come through, it goes over that and actually goes under it. It puts a block between where you have the dark flower frequency coming in. It actually runs underneath it. So it creates a block between the dark flower frequencies and communicating with the DNA that's underneath it. So it literally creates a sheath around the DNA that inhibits much of the talking of the dark flower to the gene code itself. Next one, please. And this is just to give you a better idea of if they were all together and running through the DNA, the rainbow frequencies would run underneath that layer of icky-looking stuff and would block much of the communication from the icky stuff to the physical DNA itself. So this is what the activation of the NOMI gene is intended to do, theoretically speaking, according to the Guardians, of course. Next one, please. Alrighty, let's see. Yeah, we're going to get ready now to do the technique. So we're going to take a little bit of a break to prepare that. There's a few more diagrams that, well, they're not diagrams, they're pictures actually, that just help you to visualize some of the things that we will be doing as we journey. So I will save those until we go into the technique so they're fresh in your mind when we start